Good morning, everybody. Please rise and join with us as we sing a medley of opening hymns, starting with Enter, Rejoice, and Commit, which you don't need words for because I'm going to tell you, and then later on, 347, Gather Us. Please rise. 1, 2, this is a four-measure band. Enter, rejoice, and enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice. Turn to your friends with a smile. Turn to your friends with a smile. Turn to your friends with a smile. Today will be a joyful day. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears. Your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Open your ears. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Open them wide. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. And as we say in the UU, don't be afraid of some change. Afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. And one more time, enter, rejoice. Enter, rejoice. Enter, rejoice. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. And now turn to 347, and we'll sing Gather.
morning. Welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church on this beautiful, warm summer day. Cedar Lane is a liberal religious community where love works, where we gather to explore the eternal, nurture community, and build a more just world, where we dare to embody beloved community. I'm Abhi Janamanchi, one of the ministers who serves this religious community, and I welcome you to worship this morning. Some of us this morning are bringing our best selves to this space, and some of us are bringing our struggling, dragging selves. I only got 4 hours of sleep this morning, so all of us are welcome here, and all of us are loved. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, whatever your life circumstance, and whatever your national origin or immigration status, you are welcome here. At this time, I'd like to extend a special welcome to our guests who are joining us for worship. If you're here for the first time and feel comfortable doing so, would you please raise your hand so we may see, recognize, and welcome you? All right, we have quite a few guests here this morning, and if you'd please keep your hands raised for just a few more seconds. Our welcoming ushers would like to recognize and appreciate your being here with a small gift. Thank you. And I hope you will join us You're getting your exercise, Lisa. Thank you. I hope you will join us after service for a special coffee hour where we will have not just coffee but tea and also special cake this morning, which I hope you will partake. And also, if you feel so moved, pick up a yellow mug and see what happens. Because when you pick up a yellow mug, what happens, friends? Just hello? Because our members will seek you out and extend a special welcome to you for joining us here today. So at this time, I also would like to focus on a few announcements. I draw your attention to the announcements page in your order of celebration. And as you prepare to peruse them, if you have cell phones, smartphones, now is the time to put them on worship mode. I would like to thank everyone who helped with the rummage sale that happened this weekend. I heard that it was a wonderful success. There were lots of goodies that were lapped up, but there are also a few left in the lounge. So if you were a part of the rummage sale in some capacity and would feel comfortable rising, please do. Thank you. Thank you all. And Laura Lee, today at 12:45, after the third Sunday of Tapestry, our multi-generational enrichment program, we will have our congregational picnic. It looks likely that we will be outside, weather permitting, but if not, we will be inside. Everyone is welcome to the picnic, and today we have food trucks arriving to provide some interesting food options. So I hope you will consider joining us for the picnic this afternoon. We also, during Tapestry, have a new member orientation that Reverend Michelle will lead, which gives you an opportunity to understand what it means to belong to a spiritual community like Cedar Lane. So I hope you will join us. Where will? In Reverend Michelle's office. So just follow her and you will find out where. And next Sunday, after the service, we're going to be having a special reception to appreciate and recognize the Reverend Michelle Collins and her ministry to us. Michelle has been with us for 2 years in her capacity as our interim associate minister, where she brought wonderful insights in terms of how we need to refocus our attention to our mission and our vision, provided much needed stability, and also provided wonderful ministry in the many different areas. So we thank you, Michelle, for your ministry to us and wish you the very best. Thank you. So I hope you will join us for this special recognition next Sunday. And in the interim, we do have a table in the lounge for you to sign cards and give your best wishes to Michelle. Next Sunday also, in the afternoon at 3 o'clock, we'll be hosting a rapid response training that will be provided by Sanctuary DMV, which is designed to help communities respond to ICE raids and also to provide support to those who are at risk of deportation and their families. It's an important training that I hope you will, and it's a training of trainers, so I hope you will consider being here in the sanctuary at 3 o'clock next Sunday. And last but not least, we also have our refugee family support network that is actively engaged in supporting a Syrian family, the Ali family that arrived earlier in the fall. And we're partnering with the Islamic Community Center in Potomac to provide support to this family. We received a twin mattress from one of our members, and we thank you for your generosity, but we need someone to schlep the mattress, to use a wonderful theological term. So if someone has a truck that's large enough to carry the mattress to North Baltimore, I think that's where the location is, where the apartments are. Hyattsville, thank you. Please see Kay Gottesman, who will be in the lounge after the service. We really appreciate your being able to help us with getting this to the family. And our Share the Plate this Sunday is with Bethesda House, which for over 25 years we have been a monthly dinner provider for 17 men at this location, which is a transitional housing program for men located right here in Montgomery County for people who struggle with mental illness. So we ask of you to support generously this important ministry that serves an important need in our county. Thank you for your attention. Let us worship.
In a culture that worships winners, some people say that church is a place for losers. And you know what? They're right. This is a place for losers. It's a place for people who've lost their hair, lost their teeth, lost their place, lost their memories, lost their savings, lost their jobs. It's a place for people who've lost their parents, lost the love of their life, even lost their children. It's a place for people who've lost their way, lost their faith, lost their hope. This is a place for imperfect, broken, messy people, for us. Let's see who we are and how much we need and can help one another. Come, let us worship together.
Please rise in body or in spirit as Susan Modak and Anne Branzel Spiegler kindle the chalice. Please read the chalice lighting words for the congregation in your order of celebration. I'll start us off. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats.
Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us.
Eyes will light up as we enter.
Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power.
Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done.
Arms to hold us when we falter.
A circle of healing.
A circle of friends.
Some place where we can be free. Please remain as you are to sing together hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. We'll sing the first and fourth verses.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the ways of human strife. We search for truth in quality and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found the joy to be together. And in our search for peace, may we will finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
Today we gather in this sacred space, a place of sanctuary amid the many challenges of life, a center from which we may gather strength to face these challenges with courage and grace, faith and love. In this time of remembrance, we lift up those in our community who are living through significant passages, the small and extraordinary milestones of life. We pause to be present to our spiritual companions and to the concerns of our own hearts. May all who gather here be held in the embraceability of the community of our hearts. Congratulations and best wishes to all our graduating high school seniors. We wish them the very best as they seek new vistas, dream new dreams, and embrace life with passion. We celebrate with joy the Reverend Hillary Collins Kilpatrick's ordination into Unitarian Universalist ministry by Folan Community Church in Lexington, Massachusetts. I assume she's not here, but maybe we can give her a hand. We pray for all who were affected by the fire in Grenfell Tower in London, which killed 58 people, injured many others, and left all the residents without a home. We pray, too, for the recovery of Representative Steve Scalise and the victims of the UPS shooting in San Francisco. For these friends of ours, and for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in our hearts, let us turn to the peace and solace of prayer, silence, and song.
Let us center ourselves for a time and enter gently and lovingly into the spirit of prayer, meditation, and reflection. Nameless one of many names, hear us and receive. In these few unhurried moments, we would seek to quiet ourselves and awaken to the still point within, to the source of our lives and all life, to the still small voice that speaks in the silence of our hearts. It has come that time of year again when a day has been set aside to remember fathers, their gifts, their dreams, their presence, and their absence. From us who knew and loved fathers, who battled and were held by fathers, we lift up hymns of grateful remembrance and appreciation. From us who had no fathers because they died too soon or were not known or refused to know us or did not know themselves we were their own, hear our longing and frustration when we name the wounds of separation, when we chart the places and time we feel their absence. From us who were frightened of our fathers, who ran from them, listen to the anger and the hurt, and lift up the spirits of all who are in need of healing. And from us who found others to father us, be it our grandfathers, our uncles, teachers, mentors, those who saw in us beauty, wonder, and abilities and called them forth, who believed in us even when we did not believe in ourselves. Hear us give thanks for those who fathered us. We remember the names of those who in your love we have parented, heard into speech, launched into life. We remember the names of our children, the children of our body and of our spirit, spirit of life, store of good and hope. Let these names resound and be received. O love, never let us go. In the name of all that is holy, life-affirming, life-sustaining, we say Shalom, Salam, Om Shanti, Sat Sri Akal. Amen. Blessed be. During the time of our silence this morning, if you are experiencing a loss or commemorating the anniversary of a loss, you're invited to rise in body and or in spirit and remain as you are until the music. Let us enter the silence together. So may it be.
Every generation blames the one before, and all of their frustrations come beating on your door. I know that I'm a prisoner to all my father held so dear. I know that I'm a hostage to all his hopes and fears. I just wish I could have told him in the living years.
Crumpled bits of paper filled with imperfect thoughts, stilted conversations. I'm afraid that's all we've got. You say you just don't see it.
He says it's perfect sense.
You just can't get agreement in this present tense. We all talk a different language, talking in defense. Say it loud, say it clear. You can listen as well as you hear. It's too late when we die to admit we don't see eye to eye. So we open up a quarrel between the present and the past. We only sacrifice the future. It's the bitterness that lasts. So don't yield to the fortunes you sometimes see as fate. It may have a new perspective on a different day. And if you don't give up and don't give in, you may just be okay. Say it loud, say it clear. You can listen as well as you hear. It's too late when we die to admit we don't see eye to eye. I wasn't there that morning when my father passed away. I didn't get to tell him all the things I had to say. I think I caught his spirit later that same year. I'm sure I heard his echo in my baby's newborn tears. I just wish I could have told him in the living years. Oh, say it loud. You can say it clear. Just listen as far as you hear. Oh, it's never too late.
I could have told him in the living years.
That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Henry and choir and our musicians. It was perfect for this Father's Day. Our reading this morning comes from a longtime member of the UU congregation in Oakland, California. Here's what she says. I've been going to the same church for a very long time. For nearly 30 years, most Sundays I have walked through our beautiful redwood doors. In all these years, I've filled a variety of leadership positions, from owl teacher to board president, usher coordinator, and stewardship co-chair. And in all those years, my congregation has had ample opportunity to disappoint me. I am disappointed when people don't think that my justice project is the one that we should collectively work on. I'm disappointed when people want different music than I do. I'm disappointed when we don't all agree that our children's ministry is the most important priority in the church. I'm disappointed that people don't give enough time, talent, or treasure to the church as I do. I'm disappointed, well, you get the idea. In nearly 30 years of relationship, there have been lots of disappointments. 2 or 3 times over the years, I've been so disappointed I seriously questioned remaining in my congregation. I wondered if church is actually real. I've doubted its ability to provide the salvation of which we speak, lived, beloved community. On those occasions, I've thought, I could just stop going to church for a while or even forever. But staying away has never helped me through such times. Rather, coming in closer, telling people about my spiritual crisis, listening, sharing, caring, worshiping. These have helped me know this is where I belong, even when the church is the source of my frustration and disappointment. Because we are not in church to be with people who want to sing the same music, rally for the same cause, or attend the same retreats. We are in church to learn to love better. And in learning to love better can only happen when we have the opportunity to love past our disappointments and return to a place of acceptance and affirmation. This is true in our personal lives, our work lives, and our church lives. It is a deep spiritual practice. At my best, as a religious person, as a Unitarian Universalist, as a member of this First Unitarian Church of Oakland, she says, I am called to love whoever walks through these doors. I don't need to like everyone. Not everyone is who I would choose to be my friend. Not everyone agrees about what we're here to do, but if I am living my best values, I offer care, respect, and commitment to each member, friend, and guest of my beloved community. In the end, we can all try our best to live out our faith as Unitarian Universalists through study, conversation, service, and commitment. We forgive ourselves and forgive each other as we stumble through. We disagree, we annoy, we flake out on one another. And we worship, support, hold, and affirm one another. There really is only one choice between imperfect community and no community at all. Again and again, we are called to choose to commit ourselves to building a more just, more diverse, and yet ever messy and imperfect, beloved community.
All may participate in the life of the congregation with the gifts of their mind and heart, their skills and time, their wisdom and their vulnerability, the gifts of their livelihood and the gifts of their commitment. Whether on Sundays at this time, whether by electronic means or gifts in a plate, we offer of ourselves to make community happen. The offering to support the work of the Bethesda Men's Shelter and the mission and ministry of Cedar Lane will now be given and gratefully received.
Back in San Francisco, when I was with the Faithful Fools Street Ministry, we did a good bit with clown noses and clowning. I don't actually have one to wear today because I've learned I can't preach while wearing one. It distracts me too much. But that's where my basket of clown noses comes from. But years before that, I actually spent a couple of years working as a professional clown. Now, you wouldn't know that if you looked at my resume. That says photographer, not clown. But I can assure you the majority of what I did was clowning. And since I was making a financial commission for the day, that made it, professional work. I was a professional clown. I spent those 2 years working for Olin Mills Church Directories as a photographer. Now, it was actually a rather weird model. What we did is we had a very specific set of photographs that we would take of each individual or family who walked through the door, no matter their shape, their size, their preference, no matter anything about them. If they were an individual, I had 5 very specific poses I would put them in. A couple got 4 poses as a couple, then 2 shots separately. Family also had a prescribed set, which varied depending on the number and sizes of their children. How they sat, how their shoulders were, how their necks were, their heads, their hands. You get the idea. It was all carefully scripted out and prescribed in order to optimize and standardize the photos. And then I just kind of added my personality in the hopes they would enjoy the experience and actually buy some of the pictures. But the pictures, they all ended up looking the exact same. And I was graded on how close my work came to those standards. It was like there was a perfect photograph, and all I was trying to do was to reach that perfect picture with every person who got in front of my camera. And as hard as I tried, we got scored every so often on random days of photography, and as hard as I tried, I never got a perfect score. But I'm pleased to say that due to my clowning, I was the third best-selling photographer in the country one quarter. So I'm a much better clown than photographer. Now, of course, this level of perfection doesn't really exist. And even if we might be able to make it appear perfect for a split second in a carefully controlled situation, it is still just a picture of normal people with complex families. All families are complex lives with varying degrees of messiness. The perfect family photo is just as much a myth as the perfect family. We have some mythical ideas about communities also. Now, I do believe there is such thing as a functional, fabulous community, and I really do, that really does what one hopes they would do. Quaker theologian Parker Palmer calls them true communities. True communities are ones that actually work, ones that nurture their members and make a difference in the world. But when we try to picture these true communities, a lot of extra ideas and myths start to get in our way. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about these myths. Y'all ready? These are fun. Okay. The first one of the most pervasive of these myths, comes from when we look at communities in terms of individuals and what we get out of them, a consumer sort of mentality. This myth is deeply embedded in our theological history, too, holding up the importance of the individual and their beliefs. Now, I admit I'm not immune to this myth myself. As I evaluated what seminaries to apply to for my master's degree, and then more recently when I looked at doctorate programs, this was entirely the frame I was looking through. What were the benefits that I would get out of this particular program? What features did the program offer me? How did the staff treat me? Did I like the other students I met? These sorts of things. Now, I'm not saying this is the wrong way to look at a school to attend, but it probably contributed to my surprise when I got there and realized there was this community thing there too, and all this effort that went into building it. Now, since I was living on the other side of the bay in San Francisco, and I didn't make being an active part of the community a priority, I never did really connect with it. The community and the school remained mostly a consumer mentality for me. But there was definitely a community there too, and it baffled me how connected other folks were with it. Community isn't just something that one subscribes to like the National Geographic, boiled down to a list of rights and benefits for being there, although I admit that sometimes I'm afraid that's what membership in UU congregations can feel like when it's presented. But that doesn't build true community. Parker Palmer reminds us that true community comes as a byproduct of commitment and struggle. He goes on, "It is not accident that the most impressive sense of community is found amongst people in the midst of joyful travail, amongst blacks, amongst women, amongst all who have said no to tyranny with the yes of their lives. Shared struggle, shared triumph, and shared failures, these build community like nothing else, co-created stories and struggles." But even with all of this in mind, even with what we go through as a community, the consumerist and individualist mentality is probably still the hardest myth to challenge. How much of our capitalistic society is built around individual and individual needs? How much of this is ingrained in the way each of us think, keeping our focus on how to get our own needs met? And it's so embedded that we may not even consciously think about it, but still might look for each of our own preferences whenever we walk through the door. Now, in case you might be thinking ahead that I'm going to say it's the group needs above the individuals, I'm not saying that either. In a true community, as Parker Palmer describes them, the individual doesn't supersede the group, but likewise, the group doesn't supersede the individual. They're both just as important. And even more, the two of those balance each other. In a well-functioning community, the group helps to balance the needs and egos of its members, and the voices of individuals and the contributions of individuals help to complement and challenge the group. The group balances the lives of its members, and the individual members challenge and inspire the group. We need all of these. And a diversity of voices and diversity of opinions, as hard as it might make to get through things at times, a diversity makes community stronger and every decision more solid. The University of Virginia did some studies about dissenting voices on juries. They found that a single dissenting voice, a single voice that spoke up and challenged the prevailing opinion, this one voice resulted in more information being considered and a greater number of perspectives being in the room. And a jury, that's just an isolated group for one moment in time. Think of what diversity can do in our communities that are far longer lasting, growing and learning and changing, well, hopefully doing those things over time. Communities are stronger because of their individual members. And in fact, our society is too, something we've needed much more of late. We've got other myths about our communities too. A particularly pervasive one is the idea of true communities being some kind of utopia. Just like that perfect family setup, if we were to imagine what a perfect community would look like, imagine that for a second. What a perfect community would look like, I bet you'd have a number of utopian features in it. Now, sure, they're ideal, but ultimately unrealistic. Now, utopian communities, intentional communities, I admit to a small-scale obsession with these sorts of things. I have always been fascinated by these intentional communities. I even lived in one for about 3 months during the summer when I was an undergrad. Now, the United States is no stranger to intentional communities. In the 19th century, there were more than 100 experimental intentional communities founded in the U.S. And even though they were different with many of their beliefs and values, they described each other as fellow travelers. So it is super cool that one of these experimental communities was a Universalist intentional community. The community of Hopedale in Massachusetts. Anybody heard of it? Okay, a few folks. Hopedale was founded in 1842 by Aidan Ballou, nephew of the well-known Universalist minister and theologian Hosea Ballou. This community, 1842 by the way, it was revolutionary. Property was held jointly, labor was shared, women's rights were emphasized. All women had a vote and some even held leadership positions. These values of equality were common in many of the intentional communities at the time too. The problem was, here's where the myth gets involved, the problem was they weren't sustainable. In fact, Hopedale lasted for only 14 years before it went under because some of its initial financial backers stepped out. For all of its lofty ideals, it wasn't a practically sustainable model. And many of the other experimental communities at the time faced failure too, for bankruptcy, for losing their buildings to fires, for fearing letting in new members, for losing the next generation as their children decided they wanted something different in life, for quarreling over doctrine, or simply getting tired of one another. It's hard to hear these fates, isn't it? As humorous as it is still truly hard. They sound like such a neat community model. I mean, the relationships, the equality, the cooperation, they should have worked, right? We can really get caught up with all of the shoulds, tying up these assumptions and hopes without a grounding in a sustainable reality. And as a slight side note, we can direct shoulds at ourselves too, which one might affectionately refer to as shoulding all over ourselves. All right, another myth. This is one that you are particularly grappling with right now. The myth that just because we're preaching something means we're practicing it too. UUs have a long and rocky history with regards to black empowerment and white supremacy right here in our own movement. And we love to hold up our heroes who stood against hate in the civil rights movement, and our courageous members and leaders who stand up against it now. But we don't have it figured out by a long shot, both within many of our congregations and now especially at the national level as recent controversies continue to bring front and center. I hear many well-intentioned folks coming down all over these issues. I've seen struggles, heartfelt, vulnerable struggles, as folks have pushed themselves to grappling with ideas of white supremacy and institutional racism right here. There have been stupid letters that have been sent out, rather publicly. Reactions that come from the same microaggressions that we say we oppose. And a long history of not taking a hard look at ourselves. We're starting to make some progress, but we still have a long way to go. And we can't let ourselves fall back. Here's the challenge. We can't let ourselves fall back into the myth of believing that we have it figured out just because we're fighting for it. All right, next myth. I'm going to swing a little bit closer to home, although that last one was pretty close to home. Let me call this one the friendliness myth. Most churches like to think of themselves as friendly places, right? Cedar Lane sure does. We think of ourselves as friendly places, offering welcoming program and welcoming visitors. Now recently, not here, but right here in this area, I saw an outdoor banner in front of a church that said, "We love visitors." Of course you do, was my first thought, but I smirked as I thought it. On the one hand, we have this friendliness myth, right? We're friendly places. But there's research that shows that reality is otherwise. Evangelical church scholar Tom Rainer did a huge survey, thousands of church visitors and new members, and found that by and large, congregations rated themselves as being more friendly than their own visitors did. Yeah, how true is that here? How often do you turn and talk with someone you know rather than someone you don't? In fact, our new member told me recently when she came here, she went and got our yellow mug and held the yellow mug and counted how many people talked to her and how many didn't. A lot more didn't, by the way. How often do you talk with someone you know rather than someone you don't? Our friendliness myth, we think we're friendlier than we actually are. All right, one last myth. Don't worry, you'll get to hear from me next week too, but one last myth. I've got a super fancy, highly technical name. Let's see if y'all can remember this. This is called the "we figured out what's working now and expect it'll work tomorrow too" myth. You like that? The myth of we figured out what's working now and expect it'll work tomorrow too. This is a dangerous myth. Possibly the most dangerous out of any we have talked about today. Any of y'all heard of Rakow, Poland? Probably not. It was founded in the mid-16th century by a Polish nobleman as a center for religious tolerance. It was a wholly Unitarian community in Poland. Unitarianism thrived there. It was a hotbed of forward thinking. They had a well-known printing press. They published a good amount of Unitarian educational materials for Poland and for Europe. They published what's known as the Rakowian Catechism, a published non-Trinitarian statement of faith in the 16th century. But as forward-thinking as they were, we know what's working now, right? They failed to pay attention to what was happening around them. As the Counter-Reformation grew in Europe, the challenges against the tolerance present in Raquel also grew. The tipping point came when 2 boys in Raquel allegedly threw rocks at a group of crosses that had been erected near the boundary of town. In the ensuing aftermath, the Unitarians in Raquel and all of Poland were wiped out. The only reason we know about them is because of the remnants from the printing press. Of all the myths about communities, this one worries me the most. What are we missing? What might we be holding on to that won't work for us tomorrow? We can't just hold on to the fact that UUs were the vanguard of liberal thinking 40 years ago and think that that edge will keep us going. To say it more specifically, we can't hold on to the fact that Cedar Lane was at the vanguard 30 and 40 years ago and that edge will keep Cedar Lane going. It is no secret that church membership and church attendance are declining all over the place across denominations. And the number of folks unaffiliated with a religious tradition is growing as church memberships are decreasing. 1/3 of all adults under the age of 30 claim no religious affiliation of any sort. And only 2 in 10 millennials believe that going to church is important. I don't have to look much further than my own family to confirm these numbers. Out of 5 kids, 5 of us, all of us raised going to church every week, all of us raised with the importance of being church, with the importance of being spiritual. You know how many of us is still affiliated with a religious institution? 1. Me. The rest would certainly be known as nuns. The world is changing. This is the reality, but it's also the reality that institutions are slow to catch up. Changes to the religious landscape are all around us. Changes of every kind surround us and will continue to. And I'm afraid we'll miss it if we spend too much time and energy on what works for us today or even what just worked yesterday. And that's something I am desperately afraid of for our beloved faith. Our challenge, this is the reason I'm talking about these myths today. Our challenge is to see these myths for what they are, to name them and not let them limit our thinking, to see them and not let them blind us to reality. Another way is possible. And I think because you show up every Sunday, you know that's possible too. True community is not only possible, true community is right here. We've been building it for years. True community, though, doesn't mean a perfect one. As Layla Ibrahim from the Oakland UU Congregation reminds us, there is really only one choice between imperfect community and no community at all. Again and again, we are called to choose to commit ourselves to building a more just, more diverse, yet ever messy and imperfect beloved community. I don't know about you, but I'll choose messy and imperfect every time. May we all realize our myths, but may we also find the love that we need to keep building our beloved communities. May it be so. Thanks. Oh.
Thank you, Michelle, for not holding back. And for challenging us to not just to see the myths that sometimes guide our religious lives, but to see through them. Thank you. So while involvement and engagement in a Unitarian Universalist congregation may not guarantee us a place in UU heaven, nor somehow influence our eternal destiny, it might save us from one of the myths that Michelle pointed to, from becoming self-absorbed and self-indulgent. One of the joys of being a member of a Unitarian Universalist community like Cedar Lane is that it allows us to investigate and exercise our capacity to serve. Serve not just our fellow members, but to serve a life much larger than our own. This place is, in fact, an ideal setting for exploring the meaning and implications for service and servanthood. Here we are exposed week after week to a truth that wisdom teachers from Amos to Maya Angelou have proclaimed, that until we acknowledge and respond to the call of service, a sense of true fulfillment will elude us. At least, this is what faith communities do. And this is what makes them fairly unique among modern institutions. Religious communities, like any other nonprofit organizations, require a certain number of paid professional staff in order to be effective. But without an ongoing, dependable investment of time, energy, and substance from its members, places like Cedar Lane would be nothing but an empty building. Cedar Lane is blessed to be rich in human resource capital, a term that I don't like, but gets the message across. Lots and lots of individuals who come forward each year, year after year, to collaborate together, to work together, and with staff, creating wonderful networks of connection, strengthening the bonds of community, and embodying shared ministry. That forms a very strong net and glue that holds this community together. It takes all of us to do the work of the church, not just church work, but the work of the church, and through that, live out our mission and our vision.
So at this time, we would like to recognize those who've given their time and talents to further Cedar Lane's mission this year and help make this place possible. I invite you to stand as you're able when we call your group's name. If you're already standing when I call another group you're part of, you're welcome to raise your hand or wave your arms around however you wish. All right, if you serve, we thank you if you serve on our board of trustees. Board members? As
the chair of a board committee or a ministry team.
As a teacher or volunteer in the children's religious education program.
With our youth.
Or our adult enrichment or the forum.
As a member of the choir, or one of our many musicians, or on the music ministry team.
As a volunteer in the office.
If you serve as a pastoral visitor or a We Care neighborhood chair.
If you're a worship associate.
If you helped out at special events like our annual auction or our rummage sale or our holiday craft day, Easter egg hunt, concerts.
If you're a leader on one of our many social justice ministry teams or projects.
If you helped out with hospitality, serving refreshments, coffee, tea on Sunday or special events, served as an usher or a greeter, created these gorgeous flower arrangements as part of the flower team, or worked in the sound booth.
If you've coordinated or facilitated programs like a Soul Matters group, the Alliance, the Kiplinger Lecture, Science and Religion, the Quilting Group, Bridge, or get ready for this one, you ready? Etc.
And if you've been involved in other activities and programs that we are sure we missed. All right. So I just want us to take a moment and look around. Just see how many are rising this morning. You make church happen. We're just there to support you, but you make church happen. Thank you for your commitment, for your time, your talents, and your treasure, for your willingness to serve, and for sharing your many gifts. Your participation enriches our life together and makes our ministry a shared ministry. For all things great and small you have given this congregation, we take time today to extend our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation. Thank you.
Today we also pause. Is it on?
Nope.
I'm not on.
Oh, you seem to have run out of batteries, Michelle. Let me do that. Let me do that. Mr. Lohmeyer,
There are different batteries too.
would you bring some new batteries, please? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Whoops. Oh, hang on. Rick. I can't see, so would you?
Good morning, Cedar Lane. We have the pleasure of recognizing a few of the extraordinary people who year after year make this congregation the vibrant, caring community it is. Ways that we often don't see or hear.
Each year, the Board of Trustees asks for nominations for the Unsung Heroes Awards. We received close to 20 nominations this year. We don't give out 20 awards every year. Thank you to everyone who nominated someone, and if your person was not selected this year, please nominate them again.
So what makes an unsung hero? To be eligible for the award, a nominee must meet the following criteria. You must be a member of Cedar Lane in good standing. You must volunteer in significant ways enough that one of your peers notices and nominates you. You must not have received the award in the last 5 years, and you must not have been compensated for any of the services for which you've been nominating. Selecting just a few standouts from so many extraordinary members who contribute countless hours of time and talent was very, very difficult. After some lengthy discussions, research, and more discussions, however, we chose a few people who are true Cedar Lane heroes for all they do for Cedar Lane's community. So while today we honor those deserving people selected by the board this year, in doing so, we want to honor all the many unsung heroes who make Cedar Lane possible. For at least today, they are no longer unsung.
Our first unsung hero joined Cedar Lane less than 10 years ago, in 2008, but his UU roots go back to his teen years. He first got involved in Cedar Lane through adult programs and the Alliance. He and his wife were married here by Abi. If you don't already know him by name or face, you most certainly know this dedicated member's behind-the-scenes work, because he makes sure that our ministers, musicians, worship associates, and others sound loud and clear, whether you're in the sanctuary, the chapel, the library, the chalice house. In just the last few years, this gentleman has put in thousands of hours to improve technology at the church in multiple ways, and I will not cover all of them. He has led the AV team in installing the new sound system in this sanctuary, reworking the audio systems in the chapel and the chalice house. He has led the installation of the video projector in the Chalice House, mounting the cameras in the sanctuary, selected the video monitors in the choir loft. I sit in the choir. There are people that could not see a thing until those went up in there. He has worked with the AV team to replace the speaker system, the volume controls in the lounge, the church office, the library. If you hear it or see it, he's probably touched it. He has assisted leaders in the forum and other special events in making sure that all of those events go on without a hitch. Remember the Jamie Raskin event? 900 people, 4 different spaces. When a member passes away, and it's so important that you're able to honor that person, he meets with the grieving families. He helps them plan that day so it works out just right for them. And so that he understands what they need and that their video slideshows and what have you go off without a hitch. And this year, he started mentoring a young man in college for AV, in addition to all of the adults he's mentored over the years. So it may not surprise you to hear that this gentleman's wife said that sometimes she was a church widow. But she knows her hubby spends so much time here because he loves it. So to quote one of the teammates who nominated our first unsung hero, "I can't count the number of times I've come to the church to improve or fix something only to find out he's already here working on it. He's already finished the job. He sees technology improvements as service and ministry, and it shows. His view of service has made me a better person. I don't mean me, this is one of the people who nominated him. And he says yes many times when I would have said no. I don't think I've ever heard Rick say no or we can't to a church member or minister who asks for technology. Rick is truly a visionary when it comes to technology, and he has the knowledge, skills, and motivation to make this happen. Please join me in congratulating Rick Mohmeyer.
This is for all of my AV crew. They're all here. When we went to video, the AV crew unanimously said, "Oh, we'll work double." Just like that. That's the kind of people they are. You are my beloved community.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was a conspiracy.
Our next winner has been an active member for more than 10 years. She regularly volunteered on Member Services Committee. She served as an RE teacher for 8 years. She chaired the We Care neighborhood team several times. She recently served on the board for 3 years. While on the board, she co-chaired the Blumenthal Futures Task Force for 2 years, working to determine how best to use the generous Blumenthal bequest. This work is serving as the foundation for deciding what improvements should be made as part of the capital campaign. She also led the task force in determining what needed to be done to replace our failing heating, ventilation, and air conditioning machinery. It would not be a stretch to say she is partially responsible for the cool, fresh air we are breathing right now. And she is now co-chairing the capital assets planning team that will help us all to decide what further improvements we want to make in our facilities. Just recently, she hosted a brunch for more than 30 new members as part of the membership ministry team. One fellow board member who served with her said, "Marianne never ceases to amaze me. She put in so many hours on making sure we made the right decisions about the Blumenthal funds in our new HVAC system, on top of working full-time and teaching RE. Then, no sooner had she rolled off the board, she joined several other committees. She gives her all to every task she undertakes, and she is just a lovely person to be around. Please join me in recognizing and thanking Marianne Dillon for her extraordinary contributions to the church."
Well, I'm just stunned. I still feel like a new member. So what's going to happen in another 10 years? Thank you so much.
Our next unsung hero joined Cedar Lane 19 years ago. As is often the case, she started getting involved in the life of the church by taking part in adult programs, Spring Bee, the auction, stuff we've all done, most of us. She taught RE for several years. She served on and then chaired the Committee on Ministry. She chaired the Senior Minister Search Committee, and she led us in finding Abi. She's also contributed many hours to ensuring that we have a healthy bottom line, serving on the stewardship team multiple times and chairing it. She has represented Cedar Lane at the UUA General Assembly, and she's going this evening, tomorrow, I'm not sure, to be at GA this week. Did I mention she's a worship associate too? Most recently, we have all benefited this year by having her keen analytic and organizational skills in helping us coordinate, many volunteers, through the Cedar Linked program. So if you haven't already been on it, I hope that you will. It's pretty cool. As one church member said, Carolyn is just such a giving person. She never seems to tire of doing whatever it is, and she just always wants to help us be a better community. She is a role model. Please join me in recognizing our resident knitter, Carolyn Morrissey, for her extraordinary contributions.
Thank you, everybody. This is my home and my community and my support and my love, so thank you.
Our last award is to a very special person who's given her time, talent, and treasure to Cedar Lane since she joined in 1953. She saw this building rising. Honestly, it's hard to think of a community she hasn't served on. She has served as a teacher. She has served on the newsletter and photo directory committees for years, the security team, the Council for Social Justice, the kitchen crew, the Ministerial Relations Committee. As chair of the Music Committee, she played a vital role in choosing and dedicating our beautiful organ in 1987 and 88. She sang in the choir for more than 50 years, only stepping down recently when the stairs and late hours made coming regularly a challenge. When she told Henry that she would no longer be able to attend choir, she said she only wanted to participate regularly. There was no halfway for this long-term member. She has been a champion in facilitating and helping to fund upgrades that have benefited the choir, including special chairs, additional lighting, construction of the stepped risers in the choir loft, and custom risers used when the choir sings in front of the sanctuary. Perhaps she is best known for, at least in the office, as chairing our receptionist team, which supports the whole staff. One of her nominators said she is very dear to the office and the staff, present and past. She takes her job as a desk coordinator seriously and gets her hair done on Thursdays before she arrives. If she is late, which she never is, she always apologizes because late to her is 10 a.m., which is when the shift actually starts. What stands out most about Jean is that she always talked about how age doesn't matter, how you should be grateful for what you have and always do the best you can. I love how fiercely and adamant she is about her independence and be able to work in her garden and get around by herself. She is friendly, strong-minded, and dedicated to her family. Please join me in thanking and recognizing Jean Pearson with this Lifetime Service Award for her many contributions to Cedar Lane.
I have something to say first.
Picking up for what I really want, such as the pipe organ, and I wish it were played every Sunday, and hope it will be. And Jasmine is doing a wonderful job, because I know that isn't her instrument. But thank you again. As I say, it's not deserved. It's been the greatest for me. Never mind the rest of you. I don't know. That's debatable.
Thank you to Jean, to Carolyn, to Marianne, to Rick, and to all of our volunteers for all you give. Thank you for sharing your time, your good ideas, your expertise, sharing of yourself, and most of all, thank you for caring, for the heart and soul that you bring to the shared work of creating this beloved community. Thank you.
At words poetic, I'm so pathetic that I've always found it to be best, instead of getting it off my chest. So let 'em rest unexpressed. I hate parading and serenading, as I'll probably miss some more. But if this ditty is not so pretty, at least it'll show you how great you are, Jean Pearson and others. You're a melody from a symphony by Strauss. You're a bandeau bonnet, a Shakespeare sonnet, you're Mickey Mouse. You're the night, you're the Tower of Pisa, you're the smile on the Mona Lisa. I'm a worthless check, a total wreck, a flop. What a baby! Summer night in Spain. You're the National Gallery, your garbled salary, your cellophane. You're sublime. You're a turkey dinner. You're the time of a derby winner. to pop.
You announce.
We will give you the verses from up here. Ollie, ollie, ollie. We'll sing it twice. And Ollie. If you didn't get it, we'll do it again. For you and me, moving on together. For you and me, bright new morning's coming. For you and me, you can do this. Walking toward the sunrise, hand in hand, in the light together, hand in hand, walking toward the sunrise. We've got the power of loving that makes us strong. Working with each other that makes us strong. We've got the power of loving that makes us strong.
Hallelujah, we are here together. We laugh together, we cry together, we fight together, we get through it together. We work together, we play together, we mess some things up, we get some things a little right, whatever that means. We keep at it together because it is worth it. And all of its messy imperfectness, it is worth it, whatever we face, whether we want to or not, to truly be here together. May it be so. Blessed be.
Blessed be.